It's ACC Championship Game Day Saturday here in Charlotte. Welcome to Countdown to Kickoff, presented by Lowe's. Alongside Ryan Pensy, I'm Scott Kodak. An ACC Championship and a BCS berth are on the line tonight. Ryan, Georgia Tech and Florida State. The first thing that comes to mind when you talk about Georgia Tech is the triple option. How tough of a task is it to prepare for something Seminoles just frankly don't see often?
Well, I think it's going to be very difficult to prepare for. And not only that, Florida State's coming off of a very emotional loss to their arch rival, the Florida Gators, this past Saturday at Doak Campbell Stadium. And they have to forget about that. They've got to put that game behind them, because tonight you have an opportunity, not only two things: one, to win an ACC championship, and two, to go to a BCS game. Both would be first since 2005. And I think that's going to be the big factor for both teams. They're both coming off of emotional losses to their rivals from the SEC. They want to put that behind them and start to build momentum for the rest of the season. Florida State has an opportunity to do that. They're going to be without Tank Carradine, though, and that's going to be a very difficult challenge.
We were here 2 years ago, and Ryan, the weather is completely different than it was 2 years ago. It was snowing, sleeting, it was 25 degrees. Well, tonight on Saturday, it's a beautiful 60 degrees. We're expecting maybe mid to high 40s throughout the game. That should play into Florida State's favor. Let's talk about Florida State's offense. So everybody focuses on Georgia Tech and the triple option, rightfully so. Florida State's offense can come out, churn the yards on the ground. They'll be successful.
They can, Scott, and that was something we didn't see a whole lot of last week against Florida. The Seminoles definitely need a big game from Devontae Freeman. They need a big game from James Wilder Jr., and they could possibly use a big game from E.J. Manuel. We saw at times last week where E.J. Manuel was able to scramble and get extra yards, including that last 22-yard touchdown at the end of the game against Florida. The Seminoles are going to need a wide variety. The big key for me offensively is Florida State needs their wide receivers to step up. We've seen it at times this year where players like Rashad Green and Kelvin Benjamin and Rodney Smith have come through with big touchdowns at clutch moments. That was what broke the back of Georgia Tech last week in the game against Georgia. It was big plays. FSU has big play receivers.
Ryan, I think the one thing that gives Florida State a big advantage in this game is that E.J. Manuel has been here. He's been in every single big game environment, well, except for a BCS Bowl. Hopefully we get there next week. But this is an opportunity for E.J. to really shine. Last week was not his best performance ever, but you come into this for your second time. You know what to expect. You have the games under your belt. E.J. needs to have a great performance tonight.
Well, he does. I don't believe FSU can win if E.J. Manuel doesn't have a great performance. Last week, as you mentioned, wasn't his best performance this season. It may have been one of the poor performances that he had over the course of his career. But again, as we said at the start, put all of that behind you. This is a fresh slate. You're going to come out and you're going to play 60 minutes of football. And E.J. Manuel has an opportunity to go out as one of the few quarterbacks to lead FSU over the course of the last 10 years to a conference championship and a BCS bowl game. That's a lot on the line, but I think he definitely can do it.
Keys to the game, Ryan, for me, turnovers. You saw 5 turnovers last week against the Gators. Frankly, that's the reason Florida State lost the football game. And then, like you said, running the football and just playing good, disciplined defense are the keys to getting an ACC championship.
Well, you have to. I was able to speak with Mark Stoops for our pregame interview on the Seminole IMG Sports Network, and you could tell, even with everything that's going on, with him taking the head coaching job at Kentucky, he is very focused on the task at hand this week, and that is playing against Georgia Tech. And that's something that you always fear when you have some turnover and some changes in your staff. But I believe this coaching staff, these players, they're ready for this game tonight.
Big game atmosphere here in Charlotte. Kickoff scheduled for just after 8 o'clock. You can watch the game live on ESPN. You can listen to Ryan and the IMG Sports Network crew. Live pregame shows starting at 6 p.m. Of course, everything here on Seminoles.com. If you want any information about tonight's game, visit Seminoles.com. Game Day Central at Seminoles.com/game day. For Ryan Pensy, I'm Scott Kodak. We'll see you after the game.